What if you woke up after dying, only to discover you were about to become someone's dinner? Subai was just an ordinary web novel writer, grinding away at his keyboard to make a living. One day, his shameless editor convinced him to take an outdoor inspiration trip. Instead of finding inspiration, he found a cliff. One wrong step later, he plunged into the abyss. When Subai finally regained consciousness, his entire body ached. He slowly opened his eyes, only to find a wild-looking woman dressed in animal skins leaning over him, staring with hungry eyes. Even worse, she was drooling. A chill ran down his spine. Stay calm, she's human. Humans don't just eat people, right? Before he could relax, the woman casually pulled out a sharp bone dagger and began poking his soft flesh as if she were checking the quality of today's meat. At the same time, she muttered words in a language he couldn't understand. Subai instantly panicked. His mind screamed only one thing. Wait, did I just get isekai'd straight onto someone's barbecue menu? Asterisk. Just as he was preparing to die for a second time, the woman suddenly sliced through the ropes binding his wrists. Subai blinked in confusion. She wasn't killing him. She simply clicked her tongue, wiped the drool from the corner of her mouth, muttered a few more incomprehensible words, and walked away. As she stepped outside, Subai caught sight of something that made his heart skip a beat. Two curved horns, a long tail swaying behind her. His eyes widened. Hold on, she's not even human. Asterisk. Taking a deep breath, Subai forced himself to stay calm. After all, he'd spent years writing web novels. He'd killed off countless protagonists in over 100 different isekai scenarios. Getting transported after falling off a cliff. That wasn't even in his top 10 weirdest deaths. Once he settled down, he examined his surroundings. The room was actually a crude tent stitched together from giant animal hides. Smoke stains covered the ceiling. Bones were scattered across the ground. An extinguished campfire sat in the center. Everything looked painfully primitive. Curious, Subai lifted the hide curtain and stepped outside. The moment he did, he froze. An entire village stretched before him. Dozens of hide tents filled the clearing. Massive ancient trees surrounded the camp like towering walls. The villagers looked as though they had walked straight out of a fantasy world. Some wore beast skins. Others wrapped themselves in leaves and vines. A few were wrestling gigantic birds. Others chased strange yellow-tailed foxes through the camp. Then Subai spotted something that completely shattered his common sense. Humanoid wolves, walking upright like ordinary people. His brain stopped working. Where the hell am I? Did I get reincarnated into some nightmare survival game? Before he could process everything, a gigantic man approached him. Two black horns curved from his forehead. His sharp teeth resembled a predator's fangs. His beast-like eyes stared directly into Subai's soul. The horned man looked him over before speaking. Unfortunately, it was more of that incomprehensible language. Subai understood absolutely nothing. Just then, the horned girl from earlier happily ran over and called the man, "Father." The man's expression instantly turned serious. "Call me chief in front of outsiders." The two continued talking while completely ignoring Subai. To him, every word sounded like fantasy gibberish. Subai rubbed his aching forehead. Perfect. I've unlocked the language barrier achievement. So not only did I get transported to another world, I got dropped into a prehistoric monster tribe. Watching his completely lost expression, the horned girl tilted her head in confusion. Why had this strange outsider suddenly gone silent? Was he frightened? Or was there something even stranger about him? Little did anyone know. This clueless novelist was about to change the fate of the entire tribe. The tribe thought he was just a lost human. But his soul was hiding an impossible secret. What happened next shocked the entire tribe. The horned girl tilted her head in confusion. Why had this strange human suddenly gone silent? Her father wasn't much kinder. He stared at Subai from head to toe before shaking his head. This one looks weak. But something about him didn't make sense. His skin was unbelievably smooth. No scars. No beast marks. Nothing like someone who had survived the brutal wastelands. The chief narrowed his eyes. He's probably a runaway from one of the major tribes. After thinking for a moment, he made his decision. Take him to the shaman. Without waiting for an answer, the horned girl shoved Subai forward like a shepherd herding a lost sheep. Subai wanted to resist, but he quickly realized fighting was pointless. Instead, He secretly observed everything around him. As they walked deeper into the village, the scenery gradually changed. The tents became larger, better built. Some even had sturdy wooden frames supporting them. Clearly, this was where the important people lived. Along the way, countless villagers stopped whatever they were doing just to stare at him. Children pointed. Adults whispered. Even warriors looked curious. After all, it was their first time seeing someone without horns. Without a tail. Without wings. Subai's scalp tingled. Just where the hell did I end up? Am I the weird one here? Or, am I livestock waiting to be slaughtered? His brain desperately searched for an escape plan. Unfortunately, no magical system appeared. No overpowered cheat skill. No helpful AI assistant. Just pure survival. After several minutes, they arrived before the largest tent in the entire village. Two heavily armed warriors stood guard outside, gripping staffs carved from enormous beast bones. Just before entering, voices drifted from inside. Subai quietly listened. The tribe's greatest problem wasn't food. Or enemies. It was their shaman. The old man was dying. And worse, he had no successor. Every child in the tribe had already been tested. Not one possessed even the slightest talent for magic. Without a new shaman, the tribe would lose its spiritual protection. Sooner or later, stronger tribes would wipe them out. Their people would become wandering outcasts. Despair filled the tent. Then one elder suddenly remembered something. There is still one person left. The outsider we found 3 days ago. He hasn't been tested. Silence fell over everyone. The old shaman slowly opened his tired eyes. Bring the child to me. Moments later, Subai entered the tent. His gaze immediately landed on the frail old man seated at the center. Even without understanding the language before, he could now tell this elder held the tribe's highest authority. But one question echoed inside his head. Why would someone this important want to see me? Still, he had no choice but to step forward. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong. Subai silently formed a backup plan. If this turns into a trap, I'll grab the old man as a hostage and run. It wasn't heroic, but heroes usually died first. He slowly sat across from the old shaman. Neither of them spoke. Then, the old man's eyes suddenly burst with brilliant blue light. Before Subai could react, his body completely froze. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't even blink. An overwhelming force seemed to tear his very soul away from his body. Everything around him disappeared. Darkness swallowed the world. Then, he started falling. Down. Deeper. Endlessly. There was no ground. No sky. Only an endless ocean of darkness. Until a tiny flame appeared in the distance. Its light pierced through the void. As Subai struggled to understand what he was seeing, a familiar figure suddenly appeared beside him. It was the old shaman. But this time, he spoke perfect words Subai could understand. No strange language. No communication barrier. Just clear, effortless conversation. Terrified, Subai blurted out the first question that came to mind. What did you do to me? The old shaman smiled calmly. This place exists within your soul. Here, words are unnecessary. Then he pointed toward the mysterious flame. What do you see? Subai stared at the flickering light. His heartbeat echoed through the endless void. I can see something. The old shaman's peaceful expression instantly changed. His eyes widened in disbelief. As though he had just witnessed something that should never exist. What the flame truly was would completely change Subai's destiny, and the fate of the entire tribe. But the truth was far more terrifying than either of them could imagine. The moment he saw the flame, the entire tribe chose him as their future. One look into the mysterious flame, and the old shaman's expression completely changed. Inside the endless darkness of his soul, Subai stared at the tiny flame floating before him. At first, it looked ordinary. Then, something shifted inside it. A massive shadow slowly coiled through the fire. It looked like a dragon. Or perhaps, a giant serpent. Before Subai could see it clearly, the vision shattered. He suddenly opened his eyes back in the real world. The old shaman stood before him, his ancient staff pointed directly at Subai. Then, in a calm but commanding voice, he announced, "From this day forward, this child is one of us. He will become the next generation's shaman." For a brief moment, the entire tent fell silent. Then, Cheers erupted from every corner. The elders smiled in relief. The warriors celebrated. After months of uncertainty, the Yanlong tribe had finally found a successor. Their future was no longer hopeless. Meanwhile, Subai sat there completely stunned. Wait, what? Did they just make me their next shaman? He hadn't agreed to anything. But something else caught his attention. For the first time since arriving in this strange world, he could understand every word they were saying. The mysterious ritual had somehow removed the language barrier. It wasn't much, but at least he could finally communicate. Before he had time to think, the horned girl grabbed his wrist and pulled him outside. Within minutes, news spread across the entire village. The mysterious outsider had been chosen as the tribe's next shaman. Not everyone welcomed the announcement. Some villagers whispered among themselves. Can we really trust a complete stranger? What if he betrays us? Others didn't care where he came from. To them, the great shaman's decision was absolute. If he had chosen Subai, then the tribe finally had hope. Still feeling overwhelmed, Subai turned to the girl. Are you really sure about this? I'm an outsider. I don't know anything about your people. Isn't making me your next shaman a little reckless? The girl's cheerful expression instantly disappeared. She crossed her arms and frowned. The great shaman never makes mistakes. Being chosen as his successor is the greatest honor anyone can receive. There isn't a single person in this tribe who would question his decision. A moment later, her serious face broke into a smile. Oh, right, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Yanhua. She proudly placed both hands on her hips. From today onward, I'll be taking care of you. If you have any questions, you can ask me anything. Her sparkling eyes practically screamed. Please tell me I'm amazing. Subai couldn't help but chuckle. All right then, tell me about this tribe. Yanhua immediately brightened. We are the Yanlong tribe. She pointed toward a large banner fluttering in the center of the village. A magnificent flaming dragon was embroidered across its surface. That dragon is our sacred totem, the Yanlong. But that's all I can tell you. The rest is a secret known only to our tribe. Subai's heart skipped a beat. A flaming dragon, just like the one he had seen inside the strange soul realm. Could they be connected? He wanted to ask more, but something told him it wasn't the right time. Instead, he changed the subject. If your father is the chief, why does everyone obey the shaman? Yanhua stared at him in disbelief. What kind of life have you been living? Does your tribe not have shamans? Still, she patiently explained. The shaman is the protector of our tribe. The strongest person among us. Without one, the Yanlong tribe wouldn't survive. She continued explaining the tribe's hierarchy. At the top stood the shaman. Next came the chief. Then the captain, the hunters, the totem warriors, the reserve warriors, and finally, the ordinary villagers. Subai scratched the back of his head. For such a small tribe, you have a surprisingly complicated ranking system. Yanhua's smile slowly disappeared. Her eyes lowered toward the ground. It wasn't always this small. Her voice became noticeably quieter. We once lived in rich ancestral lands. There was plenty of food, clean rivers, and more than 300 tribe members. Our hunting parties alone had over 60 warriors. She paused, then quietly continued. But, half a year ago, everything changed. The Black Snake tribe attacked us. Our hunters were ambushed. Our people were slaughtered. Our homeland was taken. We had no choice but to flee. Many never escaped. Others were captured alive. Tears slowly gathered in the corners of Yanhua's eyes. She clenched her fists. That's why I have to become stronger. I'll rescue everyone they took from us. And one day, we'll reclaim our ancestral home. Subai quietly listened. For the first time, he understood just how much these people had suffered. This wasn't some fantasy adventure. It was a desperate fight for survival. The tour continued. As Yanhua proudly introduced different parts of the village, Subai carefully observed everything around him. The more he looked, the worse things became. Food was almost gone. Many villagers were painfully thin. Children lacked the strength to even play. Even worse, the village itself was filthy. Garbage and waste were scattered everywhere. Clean water was scarce. Basic sanitation didn't exist. Subai's expression turned serious. If a disease breaks out here, this entire tribe could disappear within days. His modern knowledge immediately recognized countless dangers these people couldn't even imagine. The problems weren't just food shortages. Everything, from hygiene to medicine, was on the verge of collapse. Subai rubbed his forehead. Where was he even supposed to begin? Just then, ding! A mechanical voice echoed inside his head. Subai froze. His eyes widened. A translucent blue screen suddenly appeared before him. He almost laughed. Finally, the cheat system actually showed up. As someone who had written countless isekai novels, he had been expecting this from the very beginning. He was only surprised it had taken so long. Without wasting a second, he mentally commanded, "Open all functions." The screen flashed. Instead of legendary weapons, a calendar appeared. Subai blinked. Seriously. A notification popped up. Daily check-in system activated. The explanation quickly followed. Every daily check-in rewarded a random beginner support pack. There was also a 1% chance of receiving an intermediate support pack. And an incredibly rare 0.1% chance of obtaining a premium support pack. Checking in for an entire month guaranteed a stronger reward. Maintaining a full year of consecutive check-ins unlocked a guaranteed premium package. Subai's excitement vanished almost instantly. This is terrible. A whole year. The Yanlong tribe wouldn't survive another year. At this rate, they'd starve long before he ever received the best rewards. The system existed, but it was far from overpowered. Meanwhile, Yanhua continued explaining the tribe's customs with genuine enthusiasm. Unfortunately, Subai wasn't listening anymore. His mind was racing through dozens of survival plans. Food, water, medicine, shelter. Where do I even start? Without realizing it, he absent-mindedly nodded every few seconds. I see. Right. Yanhua suddenly stopped walking. She slowly turned around. Her cheeks puffed up with frustration. I skipped my training just to explain everything to you. And you're not listening at all. Subai awkwardly scratched his head. Sorry. My head's still a little dizzy. I was unconscious for 3 days. Remember? Yanhua wanted to stay angry. She really did. But after seeing his exhausted face, she sighed. Fine. I guess you still need more rest. She crossed her arms and looked away. We'll continue the tour tomorrow. For now, I'll take you to your new home. Subai quietly followed behind her. A few minutes later, they stopped in front of a surprisingly large wooden hut. Compared to the rest of the village, it looked almost luxurious. Subai raised an eyebrow. Don't tell me. This is where I'm supposed to live. Yanhua smiled mysteriously. You'll understand once you go inside. Subai slowly reached for the door. But the moment he stepped across the threshold, he found something waiting inside. Something that would completely change his plans for surviving in this world.